I'm the only one on this call. Servers.
All right, so we will go ahead and get started. So I basically have the same setup as we typically have in our CEH lab. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I have the same setup as we have in our CEH lab for our study group, which is I have my Kali machine up and running on the network with my broken web app machine. So Kali is serving as my attack machine and the broken web app is serving as my victim. So I had to restart. So my IP address changed from 11 to 14. So if you're following along in the lab document, which is on the website, you'll see that I've updated all of these to 14 because that's just what my machine is at right now. So the purpose of today is basically just to show you guys what these labs look like if you're running them on your machine. And hopefully my computer will cooperate with me today. So this first that we're doing, this is a part of our packet crafting section, which is basically about if the firewall that you are attacking is not allowing you to get through with certain restrictions. These are different types of packets that you can craft through the use of HPing or through the use of, I think we're going to use some ZenMap, which uses Nmap a little bit later, that will allow you to, have different ways to get your packets through. So actually, I should just let this one run. So this command specifically just says, hey, I'm going to do exactly 3 packets. It's going to send an ICMP packet to this victim machine. So it sends exactly 3 packets and it stops. So if you're familiar with a normal like ping or an HPing, if you don't stop it, it'll keep going forever and ever and ever. So this says specifically, I want you to send 3 packets, and maybe you want to send 3 packets because you don't want to make a lot of noise. That's how you do that one. So the next one's going to be a send scan using HPing. And this sends the basic, half open, it's equivalent of doing -SS for Nmap. And it'll basically keep going if I don't stop it. And it basically sends the packets to the machine and sees if it's responding. So this third scan here is a UDP scan. So I actually had to do these for a capture the flag recently. So what this will do is this will tell you whether or not it's reachable or unreachable using UDP. So UDP is a protocol which is like basically fire and forget it. So it doesn't give you any assurances to make sure that it actually gets there. It just sends it, and you just, I guess, have to hope for the best. So it looks like that my machine is not responding for with any information, but this is, you know, how you do a UDP scan, and it's basically that option -2. So if you do it without anything, it's just TCP, but if you put the -2 on here, it makes it a UDP scan. And you can see here it says UDP mode set. All right, so our next scan is specifically going to be on over port 80. You can do this. So I specifically said, hey, send exactly 5 packets to this machine over port 80. So you would do this to see if you have a web server that's responding. And it sends exactly 5 packets and then stops. So as you can see, we're getting a response. So port 80 is definitely open on this machine. And then the last one, which I will do, is the flood. So like if you were going to try to do a, for example, like I can't think of any legitimate reasons to do a flood other than if you're trying to do like a DDoS or something like that. But what this does is this sends a whole bunch of packets. Let's see. Is that --? So it says you must HPing and flood mode, no replies will be shown. So typically it does this, but so many packets are sent that they can't show you this verbose output because, you know, it would just, you know, it wouldn't be readable. So it sent 75,949 packets in that, you know, whatever that 3 seconds or whatever it was until I hit stop. Okay, so like imagine if you let this go and then you have like other machines doing it as well, it would, you know, become overwhelming. So in lab 4, we did those in HPing, and then you were supposed to save it because we're going to be looking tomorrow in our lab at Wireshark and just packet analysis as a whole. So like if you did not come to the Friday night labs, you'll be able to see, you know, Wireshark in action, and we'll be able to identify, you know, the scans that we did, where they started, where they ended, so you can see what it looks like. And specifically, like, for example, like these for the most part are ICMP packets that are being sent. So you'll be able to look for that type of traffic so you can get familiar with doing packet analysis. And also today, the book giveaway on Twitter is about packet analysis as well. So I don't think anyone has signed up yet. So if you are interested in learning more about the subject, you can go sign up for the book giveaway. So any questions so far on packet crafting with HPing?
So one quick question, Tanisha.
Sure.
So when we go with this flag flood, by default, does it mean that we are sending a SYN scan flood?
I think it is. So unless you tell it otherwise, I think it's sending a SYN flood. But if we had like some kind of monitoring on the system, or if I had Wireshark open, I think, let me see if I had recorded it. So this is when I recorded this last week for the purposes of our you know, CEH study group. So you'll see this is 212,000 packets, and that's because one of the last things I did was the SYN scan. Okay, so you'll see a whole bunch of TCP traffic here, and it's being sent, and there's a lot of it. So, and it's just being sent, and the response, you'll see that my attack machine is firing off a lot more than the other machine has the ability to respond to. So these are basically, as you can see, just, and so you'll see that the machine is responding like reset knowledge, you know, because it's basically too much for it to deal with, right? But let me see if I can find one where it's being sent, because I think it sends it as a SYN. Oh, no flags are set. Okay, so it's not even a SYN flag. It's just sending them. Because if you look here, it says no flags are being set, none, in these packets that it's sending.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, so the next section was ZenMap. So ZenMap, you'll typically see this on Windows machines. It's available on all machines, but for the most part, people tend to do their ZenMap things on Windows machine and then do like Nmap on, when you're in Kali on a command line. But you can, as you can see, use ZenMap, which is just the GUI version of Nmap on a Kali machine. So we're going to do these same types of scans that we would do normally, but we're going to do them in ZenMap just so you can see how they come up. So this is our basically operating system scan. So it should come back with any information about the operating system. So it says, hey, this is a Linux kernel. It's on a virtual box, which you guys, know because that's how we set up our labs. So it did the OS detection. And then the next one we're going to do is the packet trace. And these commands, work both on the command line and they do in ZenMap. So either one will work. So just because I put these different commands in here, it was because I wanted to try to give you all the different types of scan that you might use between the packet crafting section and the ZenMap. But all of these commands you can do on the command line or in ZenMap. So it's not like only certain scans will work. So it basically came back and said, these are the ports that are open. It failed to resolve packet trace. I think I need to do 2 dashes there. Okay, so now you can see that it's doing the packet trace. So it sends the packets and we're sending it from the 7 machine to the 14 machine. So it basically says, hey, this is the sequence number for this particular packet. It's being sent from 7 to 14, and this is the time to live. And as you can see, the time to live just keeps going depending on which machine you're looking at. So this is 7 to 14, 7 to 14. It goes up based on how many packets that you have
14 machine
sent over.
Is the broken web app machine?
Yes, the 14 machine is the broken web app machine.
All right.
So this is what the packet trace looks like. Okay. And what you can tell based on this, if if there wasn't so much traffic, is that you can be able to look at for example, the sequence numbers. This is all of the broken web app machine responding because it doesn't have an existing conversation. I think that's why all of these are sequence number zeros, but the other one has lots of sequence numbers, as you can see. So that is the packet trace, and that's what that looks like. And then at the bottom, it just shows you your typical, these are the ports that are open. And the other 900 something of the top 1,000 ports are closed. All right, so this is, this next one is a null scan. And this is probably going to take a little bit. So the S-N is null, and then T4 says, I want you to do this relatively quickly. The -A gives you, your trace routes, it gives you your operating system, it gives you pretty much everything. So this is saying, hey, I want you to run this pretty quickly and give me all this information about this machine. But this is still going to take a while because the -A option gives you a lot more information. So it takes a little bit longer. All right, so as you can see, it came back. It has the same ports open, but it tells you, for example, what service versions are open on them, as you would expect from a -O. So if you see something on your exam and it's like, hey, which one of these gives you the exact same thing? And then it says like, hey, -A gives you everything. It gives you the operating system, so it gives you the trace route. You see like the SSL information here. You get, versions. You get everything. When you do the -A option. So we have the MAC address. It tells us that it's probably a Linux kernel that's running. It thinks it's one of these types of versions, which is probably correct. And then the network distance is 1 hop away. So in this case, there are only 2 things on this network that you guys are seeing right now are the broken web app machine and the Cali machine. So it's literally one hop away. But if you have other things on your network, it will tell you, potentially what devices or what hosts are in between you and your distance. So in this case, it's just like one hop away. And that you also see that in the trace route because, there was only one hop. So if you've tried to do this, for example, from your machine to maybe like a Google, you'll see a whole lot of hops. But in this network, there's only the 2 devices. All right, so this next one is just a different timing. And it's also a -A. So, and let me look up what the -T means because I don't remember what it is. Oh, TCP Connect scan. Is the default TCP scan when send scan is not an option? Okay. So, okay, it finished, and it gives us pretty much the same information. It was just a different type of scan, but it still gives us all of the information for the -A, which is the services, trace route, everything basically, operating system. And okay, so that's it for that. And then we have the Christmas scan. So we talked about the Christmas scan, I think one day in one of the questions of the day. And this is basically, I think there's 3 flags that are set for this. And it basically sends all of the packets with those three flags set. So if we were actually looking at this in Wireshark, you would see, those 3 flags set, but it basically comes back with the same type of information as far as the port information and the services. All right, so then this is the scan. And we said -V, which is verbose, so it should give us all of the information. So it says, hey, I discovered a whole bunch of ports. It told us that these ports are open with these service, but you can see that there's no service versions because we didn't ask for that information. But it still tells us that this is VirtualBox. And then, so this one I'm not going to do, but this is just for your information. So this is an idle scan, which is also, you use a zombie machine in order to do this. So you say this is the zombie IP address, and then you're sending this to this machine. Okay, so, and that's a capital I, not a capital L. So it's /S capital I, and then whatever the zombie IP address is. And then this is your target. So this is how you would do an idle scan, but as I said, you need a machine that's set up as a zombie. And I'm not doing this on my network. So there's no screenshots for this, but this is just for your information. In case you see this -I, it just means that it's an idle scan. So then you have the screenshots for all of the stuff that we just talked about in the lab, the one that says answers on the website. And then we're going to do 2 more. So the purpose of these 2, I'm just going to do them in ZenMap because I have it open already. The purpose of these is to send a smaller packet size. So this is a maximum transmission unit. So this sends smaller packets. And the thought process behind this is that if you send smaller packets, then, maybe they will escape detection. Okay, so these are the different ways that you can avoid detection using multiple IP addresses. So this one right here is a scan with a maximum transmission unit of 8. So it doesn't send anything bigger than 8 bits. And then this one right here is a decoy scan. And what this does is, and I'm actually going to kick off Wireshark because I want you to see this. This is pretty cool.
I just had a quick question.
Sure, please.
So ZenMap doesn't come pre-installed in Kali. You have to download that.
You have to download it, yes. I don't think it does. I think I downloaded it, but Nmap comes by default, but I don't think ZenMap does. And if it does, then you don't have to try to run it. But like I said, I installed it on this machine because I installed it on my other machine. So I didn't check to see whether or not. But what I'm going to do now.
It's not on there. It's not pre-installed.
Okay. All right, and then what we're going to do is this is the decoy scan. So what the decoy scan is, so you'll notice that we have 2 IP addresses on my network. So that's the 14, which is the machine that we're attacking, the broken web app, and then we have the .7, which is my Kali machine, right? So I'm going to send this, and it finished, right? Then we're going to look at the traffic in here, and you'll see that there are other IP addresses in here besides just my 7. So I'm going to stop this, and then we're going to look at the endpoints, and you'll see that this is the 7, this is the 14. Everything else that was sent was a decoy. Okay, so it's using other IP addresses to try to obfuscate, that what my machine is trying to do. So that's pretty cool. So like if you're trying to do something, I don't know that, like if you're trying to avoid detection, basically, you would try to use a decoy scan. So it sends a whole bunch of traffic so that it looks like, maybe you can't tell because you're so overwhelmed by everything else. Maybe you can't tell, what it is that I'm doing amongst all the other traffic. So that is the point of the decoy.
You mean the log file won't pick it up, the information about ours?
Oh yeah, no. The log file, like as you can see, like in the packet, you can see that there's traffic between 14 and 7, and there's traffic between 7 and 14, right? But there are a lot of other things in here besides that. Okay, so like if we like sort these, this is a whole lot of traffic that looks like this 63.200 is doing something over TCP with this. So, I mean, maybe that might cause your friendly neighborhood, blue teamer to become distracted to investigate that while it's looking at, and maybe not looking at what's really going on, which is 7 trying to attack 14. Okay, so like there's just other things, and your alert system is only as good as what is configured. So it's going to provide alerts, but then you still have something that's aggravating that information, whether that's a human or whether you have like a snort or something that's putting together that information to try to determine whether or not something is actionable. Okay, so this is just meant to slow them down, to give them a distraction, okay? So that they're not just focusing on me doing whatever it is that I'm doing.
Yes, okay, thanks, Dennis.
No problem. All right, so then the next part for lab 4 was the cryptography. So the purpose of this is basically like if you're doing any capture the flag type things, you may see, for example, something that's encoded, some kind of ciphertext, and then you're asked to try to like, hey, the stuff that I've seen said, hey, some hackers dumped a password list. Could you try to figure out what the passwords are? So in this case, you'll see something, and when I look at this, I think base 64 just because of the fact that it's like a mix of upper and lowercase and numbers. Okay. A lot of times base 64 also will have like equal signs at the end, but that's the first thing that I'm going to think about when I see this. Okay. So when you see this from the command line, and there's other ways you can do it. A lot of times, like I'll just go to a website and then try to decode it in like a base 64 online decoder. But I just want you guys to be able to see how this is done at the command line. So you don't have to go to websites if you don't want to, or if you don't have access to websites. All right. So what you say is echo, and then whatever your text is. So this is my password that I've been given, and it's not with the I, because the I is just a bullet. And then we're going to say base base 64, and we're decoding this. So this decodes to Carpe Diem. Okay, so this is just the word Carpe Diem. So you'll see when we get to the Lab 5 stuff, you'll see that Carpe Diem in a file will have a couple of extra characters with an equal at the end, but it pretty much looks like this. It's exactly the same in the beginning, and there's some couple of extra things to say that it showed that it's a file. But this is how you would go about decoding something that's in base 64. So we'll do the same thing with this one. And again, we need to not have the bullet numbers. And again, we're going to say pipe base 64, and then -D for decode. So this case, this thing says the package is at the airport. Okay, so this is how you can transmit information so that it's not readable, but this is how you would go through the process of decoding it from the command line. Okay, so if we wanted to say, for example, meet me at the corner of 4th Street so that we can send this to someone, we can say echo meet me at the corner of 4th Street. And then pipe, and then we want base 64 in this case. So when we do that, that gives us our base 64 encoding. So if we wanted to take the same thing and say echo actually, let me do that without the space, so it doesn't return for me. So echo thing, and then I'm going to say pipe, and then base 64 -D to decode. It should give me the same message, maybe at the corner of 4th Street. Okay, so does that make sense?
Encoding, Kenisha?
Yes, so the first one is take me from plain text to ciphertext. That gives us this, which is the ciphertext, which is basically a base 64 encoding of the message, the secret message that we're sending. Okay. And then we do the same thing, but we do it in reverse. So we say, hey, echo the secret message, and then we're going to decode it, and then it gives us back the original message. So this is just allowing you to go from plain text to ciphertext and then back. Okay. So for base 64, you can do that. But I think that the next thing that we're looking at, actually, this is it for week 4. So, but the next thing that we're looking at in week 5 is you're going to see that we're going to do some hashes. And with the hashes, they can only go one direction. So you can put them into the ciphertext, but you cannot bring them back because by definition, hashes are one way. So now we're going to hop over to base, let's see, I think we already did the 64. Okay, that's the same information. All right, so now we're going to do the same type of thing, but we're going to do it using a hash. Okay, so there are multiple hashes. This is SHA 256. So as you know, there's, I think, 2 other SHAs that are out there. You can use those, but you know, these examples are just for the purposes of showing what this looks like when you put this into a hash. So we're going to take our same message, which is meet me at the corner of 4th Street, and then we're going to say echo meet me at the corner of 4th Street, pipe, and then say SHA 256 sum. And then that gives you the hash, okay? So something that you'll notice about these hashes, so like if I say echo happy, and then SHA 256, SHA's sum, you'll notice that the hash for happy is the exact same length as the hash for meet me at the corner of 4th Street. Okay, so what this says is that it is much harder to be able to see like the length of whatever it is that you're looking at if you're looking at hash. So you'll recall that when we did the base64, the hash length, the ciphertext varied depending on how long whatever it was that you were encoding or decoding, right? So a longer message meant a longer ciphertext. But in SHA, everything is the same. All the hashes are the same length, regardless of the size. Okay. So then we want to do carpe. Oh, all right. I don't need to do carpe diem because I just did happy. You can see that these are the same length. So let's see what's next. All right, encoding with Open Ssl. Okay, so another way that you can do the encoding and the decoding is through the use of Open Ssl, right? So we're going to do let's say touch. So I need to do happy 64. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put this into a file. Okay. All right. So then we're going to do Open Ssl base64 in file.text and then out. It's supposed to be dash out and out.text. Okay. So if we look at this now, we should see out.text, which should give us the hash version of the file that we just put in here. So I think that what I wanted to do is I wanted to put in this file carpe diem so you could see. All right, so let's see, touch file2.text. And then I'm going to say go carpe diem. I'm going to put that into file2.text. And then I'm going to do this again. And then I want you to see that the message is pretty much the same as the other one. So open Ssl.
Yes.
All right, so you'll notice that this is the same as the carpe diem. I think the carpe diem ended at the V. Let me show you. All right, so this one right here, which ends at the T, this is carpe diem in base64. So the only difference between the base64 encoding of carpe diem, just the word, and carpe diem in a blank file is that at the end of it, it adds a CG equal. Okay, so otherwise the first part of this Y2FY is the exact same as when we just encoded the word itself. So that can help you provide information when you're looking at base64. There's also other ways that you can do the encoding besides base64 with Open Ssl. You can also do Open Ssl with DES. So let's say Open Ssl DES. Open Ssl DES3 with a salt, and we're going to say in its file2.text, which is our carpe diem, and then we're going to say dash out is file2out des.des3. Okay, so then I wanted to know what the password is. So I'm going to make the password cookie. All right, so then it encrypts it. So if we look at the file now, so we're going to say cat file to out des.ds3. It'll show us that there's a salted file. And if we do like a file, which tells us what type of file it is, file to out. It'll also tell us that this is an Open Ssl encoded data with a salted password. Okay, so in addition to putting this into an Open Ssl encoded, you can also decode it with the password. So I think the password I used was encoding, and we put the salt in there, and then we're going to use file to out des.des3, and then this is the new salt.text, and our password is let's see, this is supposed to be in extra arguments given. Des3 decode salt in. This is supposed to be out. Okay, so that completed. So we're going to say new salt.text, and we get our carpe diem back. Okay. So that's how you take it from, you know, different encoding. So like if you're trying to, for example, set up a capture the flag, you might want to encode it. If you're trying to send an encrypted message, you might want to encode it. But if you're doing a capture the flag and you need to decode it and they've given you what the salt is, then you can use that to decode the text or the file or whatever. All right, and then you can also encrypt a file in base64 and then encrypt it again in DES. So the purpose of that is just to show you that once you decrypt a file, like you may see some challenges on capture the flag that says, hey, this has been encrypted once using this and then it's been encrypted again in something else. So then you just have to take it back the other way. So then the next exercise in this machine is cracking. Okay, so cracking is basically just taking a password list and then trying to find out what the passwords are in there. So the way Kali does it now is that it separates the password file up into two different files. So one of those files is the shadow file and the other one is the password file. So one of them has the username and info in it, and the other one has the password information in it. So when you use unshadow, it puts those two files back together. So then you can pass that combined file to John, and John is basically just a password cracker. So we're going to do that really quick. All right, and I'm hearing a little talking in the background, Edward, so I'm going to mute you. If you need to say something, just unmute yourself. All right, so we're going to say unshadow etc password, and we're going to combine the etc password and the etc shadow file into a my password file. So if we were to look at my password now, you'll see that it has the usernames and password information in here, as well as everything that was in both of those files. Okay. So now we can send that file to John. And I think that this process takes a while to do. Let me see. I don't think I completed this process. No, it doesn't. It takes, so I let this run for, I think, 2 hours the other day. And when it finished, I think it had cracked 3 out of maybe the 50 usernames and passwords in there. I do not know how long it takes, but that is the process that you go through in order, if you want to, on a Kali machine or a Linux machine, export the password file. because then this can help you to pivot, because if these same accounts are used on another machine that are on the network, then you can use these usernames and passwords. So I'm not going to let this continue because it takes a while, but let's see, did it get any before I ended it? Oh, so it had one file. I guess there's a Martin0 username with the password Lucas0. But if you let it finish, I don't know how many it comes up with. I did not change this Kali machine, so I imagine if you let it complete, it comes up with all of them. But like I said, I didn't let it complete because it takes a while.
Last time when I tried it, it took more than a day.
Yeah, it might. So like if you have, a higher processing information, you could do it like that. The other thing that I could suggest is if you specifically have the default username and passwords for Kali machines, you can use John with that password list instead of it going through everything. So what it's doing right now is it's going through using the default password list which is John within John, which I'm just going to show you real quick. It has a lot of stuff in there. So it takes a while to go through there. John is basically doing, going through these things one by one. So John. So like there's a lot of stuff in here. So it has to go through this list of passwords, but it has to do it for each one of the accounts. Okay, which is why it takes such a long time. But like I said, that's the process that you would do it. But I would definitely get familiar with John because he is a very good friend as far as helping to get you password lists. You can do it with Windows password lists, like what's it called? NTLM dumps. You can do them with almost anything. John is awesome. All right, so I think that's all I have for labs 4 and 5. You guys have any questions?
I guess my question is in regards to the what you just showed, the password list. So that list comes installed with John already, or how does that?
Yeah, so the password list that I just showed you, this list right here, this comes with John, okay? And these are just John's common passwords. And there's a lot of passwords in here. And it tries these. There are a lot of accounts. So like if you say, for example, etc password, like you'll see that there are a bunch of accounts in here for under Kali, right? So like that's probably like at least 50, if not more. Different passwords, right? So then it takes this file, and then it takes the shadow file, and I'm here. In here is root, which is why I can see these things. And the shadow file just has the password information, and then it combines those together, and then it sends them to John, and then John is going to try it against all of the passwords. So, like I said, because I haven't added any additional accounts to this, it's just going to come up with basically all of the default counts that are on Kali.
Okay.
The only thing that you would see, at least on my VM, is that I changed the password on my Kali VM. So it's probably not going to come up with that password, but all the rest of the passwords are different. So I mean, are the same is what I want to say.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so that's all I have. So tomorrow's lab, which will hopefully we can do after the material for tomorrow. Like I said, it's on Wireshark, so we're gonna look into some packet analysis and try to decipher what's going on. You're looking at the packets, because the packets tell a story. And a lot of times if you have just the packet capture, and you're using that to try to figure out what happened, you have to figure out, what the story is trying to tell you. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow. I think we're doing both the Wireshark, and then we're going to use the command line, which is TCP dump.
Okay.
All right, so I will see you guys later. Thank you.